Raging wildfires across the country continue to impact Canadians, while some experts warn of the potential for more out-of-control blazes on the horizon. According to fire ecologist Bob Gray from Chilliwack, BC, as the global temperature has increased, so have wildfires. Experts also agree that wildfires are predicted to only get worse, not better, in the coming years. Ellen Whitman is a forest fire scientist with Natural Resources Canada, and she says that in the years to come, there's likely to be an increase in the frequency of fires and in the total area burnt. Well, joining us now to give us his take on the wildfire situation in Canada now and in the future is Mr. David Phillips, Senior Climatologist at Environment and Climate Change Canada. Mr. Phillips, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thank you, Nima. Nice to be with you.
Nice to have you, sir. Now, it is wildfire season, and we are expecting wildfires during this time of year, but it's the frequency and the severity of these wildfires we're seeing across the country that's unprecedented. In fact, according to the NASA Earth Observatory, wildfire activity in Canada has burnt about 10 times the average area for this time of year. So, Mr. Phillips, what is behind this massive increase in wildfire activity?
Well, we have seen these wildfires increase over the years. I remember back in 1970, you'd say, well, there was an average of about a million hectares of forest would burn in Canada. That's now up to 1990, up to about 2.5 million. And in 2021, that was a terrible year in Canada. We had about 4 million plus. And so these number of fires are expected in the future to grow bigger and longer, bigger and more of them. And certainly by maybe the end of the century, we'll be 2 or 3 times that number. Now, this particular year, Nemo, that what we have seen is the winter was warmer than normal in some places in Canada. And then we saw for areas in the West that it wasn't that warm, we saw a rapid change from a very cold March, April to one of the warmest Mays on record. And so what happened was that snow that was sitting on the ground melted, disappeared. And so then the forest was left to dry out and was not greened up, the trees. And so we saw the fires begin there. So I think it's really just a combination of the fact that we're seeing more of them, bigger, larger, taller, more intense fires. But at the same time, the weather this year is such that it's made the situation worse than it would be in other years.
And, some people are pointing to wildfires caused by human activity. What do we know about the connection between these wildfires and human behavior?
Well, it's a good point. I mean, we used to think that, well, it was just the dry lightning, thunderstorms that wouldn't bring the rain. It was dry lightning and it would start the fires. What you really need for a forest fire is you need you need the wood to be there, what they call the fuel. You need the ignition, and ignition comes from either a lightning strike or from people. People set fires, they always have. Now, typically, we'd say, it used to be about a 50-50, but it depends on the season. Early in the season, you don't see a lot of dry lightning, and so it's usually people that cause fires. And, Nemo, that where people are going out and visiting the forest. We want that wilderness experience. More of us are living in the forested area. It's a prime piece of great looking environment. So I think there's more exposure to the forest by people, and they're setting fires, some of them purposely, some of them inadvertently, more all-terrain vehicles that are out there, and they can start fires. And so it's just that we have more ignition. But also in terms of lightning, we see with climate change causing more lightning. For every degree of warming, you probably get about 10 or 12% more lightning strikes. So, hey, it's all pointing to the same conclusion. With more people and changed climate, we're going to see more of these in the future.
And how do you see these wildfires and the smoke they create potentially impacting weather patterns in Canada, Mr. Phillips?
Yeah, I think the smoke is a concern more from a health point of view, Nemo. I mean, and it's not just the fires in your backyard. We've seen in some years, I remember last year, or was it maybe 3 years ago in Alberta, they had no fires. But they had so much smoke from California fires, from Washington, from British Columbia fires. So sometimes the smoke is imported from a different area. We saw in 2021 in Southern Ontario, terrible. We were smelling smoke and the haze, and these were fires in Northwestern Ontario. So they can come from quite a distance away. So from a health point of view, we don't know what the long term effects are. Some people suggest that it's like being in a smoky situation. It's like smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. We're not sure what effects that can have on infants, on people generally, and it's a very toxic kind of a substance, and so that has a lot of physicians very worried about. Hey, what is that going to do to respiratory and to cardiovascular kind of situations?
We'll definitely have to see the long-term impacts of these smoky wildfires. Again, Mr. Phillips, thank you again for joining us on Forum Daily.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Nima.